Good afternoon there, leadership participants. Once again, it's Coach Lassiter coming to you with the next video session of our Leadership University. Today we're going to be talking about trust. And I'm going to use the book that's going to be for this weekend, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, as well as that's the same book and some of the same information that we're going to be using next week when we do some adventure training. But this particular book covers a lot of subjects with regards to trust. And, you know, people quite often talk about how long it takes to earn trust, and that's why the name of that book, The Speed of Trust, is involved. And one of the very first things in the book that it talks about that I really like is it says, you can't talk yourself out of a problem you behaved your way into, but you can behave yourself out of a problem that you've behaved yourself into, and quite often faster than you think. So even though trust has definitely got to be earned, quite often how you go about earning that trust, how you go about showing trust to others is definitely up for discussion. And there's definitely, just like anything else, some of the principles and some of the concepts are obviously up for discussion. Let me go ahead and turn my phone to silent so that we don't have to worry about that. Okay. So in dealing with trust and how you earn trust, one of the things that I want to discuss here is how it talks about the fact that for people that have to change and have to go through the change of behavior, the biggest difference in some that are willing to do it and some that aren't is a sense of purpose. You know, we've talked before in regards to having a sense of purpose, what makes you do what you're doing, the thought process behind what's driving you to succeed, what's driving you to accomplish the goals that you're trying to accomplish in life. And that compelling sense of purpose, according to Stephen Covey, is quite often the reason why someone is willing to actually go through the effort involved with the change in behavior, and not just speaking or thinking what they would like to do. Today what we want to talk about is how you build trust accounts. And when it comes to accounts or trust accounts, not all deposits and not all withdrawals are created equal. For instance, if somebody does something and it's a 3-year-old that happens to do something, that doesn't mean that you lose total trust in them. But I think most of you, whether we're talking about 12 or even the older young men that are in our leadership group, depending on what somebody does, can truly determine how big of a withdrawal or how big of a deposit somebody makes in your trust, in the trust account. And the type of things that they do, both positive and negative, are directly affecting that type of withdrawal, the type of deposit. So we're going to talk about 13 behaviors that lead to trust, or 13, it's called the 13 principles of behaviors. And the very first one is talk straight. Behavior number 1, talk straight. It's just honesty in action. Talk is completely truth versus ambiguity. You know, people that speak in a way that they're trying to deceive, those that beat around the bush and don't want to give all the information, withholding some of the information on purpose, are talking with flattery. I'm positive that each one of you young men know what I'm talking about when I say somebody speaks with ambiguity and doesn't want to be concise, doesn't want to be clear. That's not straight talk. So one of the positive behaviors that will earn trust is truly having that type of straight talk. Talking with a clear, concise, being very open and honest and candid when you have discussions with people. The second behavior is demonstrating respect. Quite often you can judge a person's character by the way they treat people that either can or cannot help or hurt them. You find somebody in your school and you watch how they treat the janitor. You watch how they treat the librarian. Go find teachers, for instance, and see how they treat other teachers, not within their own departments, but maybe an outside teacher, maybe a teacher at a different school, just in general, how they treat other people versus how maybe they treat their boss, or they treat the people that report directly and work directly for them. Quite often, that's the sign that kind of shows you somebody's character. When there's truly nothing at stake, when there's nothing, like I said, that you can do to help or to hurt me, the way I treat you quite often shows and reveals my character. Create transparency would be the third behavior that we're discussing. That just means being authentic and erring on the side of disclosure. When I relate that, for instance, I have often had a rule as a coach to have an open practices. I tell parents all the time, anything that we do or that I do as a coach, I want you to understand that you can come see it, hear it, be a part of it, obviously on the outside of the fence, but I want you to know that I'm completely okay with you understanding everything that I say to and about your son when they're on the field. I want you to understand the concepts that we use and how we do lead them, whether it be in praise or whether it be when I'm having to discipline somebody that's not doing a behavior or not doing an action that we're willing to condone. I want parents to understand clearly the why we're doing our why, the approach that we have, why we use it, and what the intent is. That's why I've always been in favor of open practices. Now, does that mean that you can't have a closed practice and still be trustworthy? No, that doesn't mean that. But I would tell coaches and I would tell people in general, whenever you start trying to withdraw your actions away from everybody else, then quite often that does raise a flag in the eyes of parents and loved ones and friends. So I've just always had that. But with regards to creating transparency, think about how we view politics. When people withhold data, withhold information, have secrets, only tell half of the information. And we all understand what it means to have that hidden agenda. It's kind of like I talked about just a minute ago when you start talking about demonstrating respect. That hidden agenda. I'm going to be really nice because I know that I'm about to ask you for something. Not I'm going to be nice in general just because that's the way I'm supposed to be. But to have that hidden agenda, I'm going to be nice only because I realize I'm about to ask you for something and I want you to say yes. The fourth behavior is right wrongs. Right, R-I-G-H-T, wrongs, means to know what is right and to do and to not do it is cowardice. So for you to know something is not right and still do it, or for know something is right and then not do it, that's what it's talking about in regards to being cowardice. It takes a real man to apologize. I will tell each of you right now that growing up, my daughter right now is 26 and married to a young man that's stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. But I can tell you there was several times as her father growing up that I would have to go back and apologize because as a young adult, I may say something or do something that later, when I reflected on it, I realized it wasn't right. Well, even though that I was the adult, even though that I was the parent, it didn't make it right. Because the more I reflected on it, the more my wife came to me and said something, the more I had to realize I need to go back and I need to apologize for what I've said because my words or my actions were not in alignment with Christ. They're not where I should have been. And my daughter did not deserve to receive that kind of conversation from me. The fifth behavior, show loyalty. Pass credit on for the ones that really do the work. For instance, loyalty. It talks about, I take a corporation that I've done a little bit of research on, Southwest Airlines. Southwest Airlines is one of those companies that truly values its employees. Quite often you hear people say that the customer is always right. Well, Southwest Airlines has often said that's not necessarily the case. And in some instances, when they look into a particular situation, they have looked at some customers and said, ma'am, sir, we're going to ask that you not use our airline in the future because of the way that you acted. And in all honesty, we support and defend our employee for their actions because in all honesty, the way you acted, what you said was out of line. So therefore, we support their actions and we're going to ask that you not use Southwest Airlines in the future. I thought that's pretty commendable. In regards to showing loyalty, the next thing it says is you can accomplish anything if you don't care who gets the credit. You know, think about that on your team. You know, we've talked about that in a roundabout way. When you truly don't care who gets the credit, if you're the 4-hole hitter and you need to lay a bunt down to move the winning run over, just so that the 5-hole hitter comes up with 1 out, runners on second base, you bunt him over to third, 1 out, bottom of the 7th, bottom of the 9th, and that run scores. The credit ends up going to, quite often, the game-winning, you know, either hit or the RBI. But in all honesty, as long as you don't care who gets the credit, isn't it amazing, that thought process of, I'm going to lay this bunt down because I know this is going to make the team successful? That thought process is what can make you and posture your team for success. That's how you build trust. That's number 5. Number 6, deliver results. Get focused on doing it versus saying you're going to do it. Quite often, people really get, you know, I've had many soldiers in the past that would come into my office and would talk to me out on the field, out in the training area, about telling me about what they were going to do and how much they were going to improve and, you know, where they were today and what they were going to do, you know, starting tomorrow. You know, and as a leader, quite often I would look at soldiers and say, you know, that really sounds good, but in all honesty, what I need from you at this point is action. I need to see it. I don't just need to hear it. I'm glad to hear you say that that's what you intend to do, but I really need to see it in action. And I will also say this. We judge ourselves based on what we think we can do. But just know this, others judged you based on what you've already done. So it's really your actions that others are going to judge you on. Even though you see yourself as that person that can truly, you know, if we're talking baseball, that can hit 500, that can have the RBIs, that can be counted on at all times regardless of the situation. You're that guy that we want to hand the ball to when the game's on the line and you toe the rubber and, you know, get the other team out. That's great. That's how you see yourself. But just know this, that others are going to see you based on your previous actions. The 7th habit or the 7th behavior is to get better. You know, when we talk about the 21st century in regards to being illiterate, it's no longer whether or not you can read and write. In the 21st century, what it means to be illiterate is those that can't learn or unlearn or even relearn. For instance, think of you as a baseball player. If you don't have the ability to relearn something about your hit and swing or, you know, the way your particular approach at the plate, how you throw the ball, if, you know, you've got a bad release, if you got a bad transition, whether it's an outfielder, an infielder, pitching, you know, the different mechanics of your delivery. If you're not willing to relearn some aspect of your game, then I would tell you that in the 21st century, that's considered to be illiterate. And when it comes to getting better, just know this. Anyone that stops learning is old. Regardless of whether you're 20 or 80, if you stop learning, you're considered to be old. And continuous improvement comes in 2 forms. Number 1, constantly seek feedback. Constantly seek feedback from others. Whether it's a coach, whether it's a teacher, whether it's your parent, whether it's someone that you know likes and really has your best interest at heart, seek feedback from that person about where you are and the direction that you're heading. And then, secondly, it's learn from your mistakes. Don't allow an opportunity that you didn't perform or the team didn't perform to go by without learning from it. Quite often, as I've mentioned before, you can fail forward. And by doing that, you learn. And that experience truly is the kind of things that will posture you for success in life way outside of the particular activity, the event, the game that you happen to have lost. that can truly be what propels you to success down the road. The eighth behavior that we want to talk about is confront reality. The first responsibility is to define what reality is. You know, quite often, when you ask somebody where they are currently, whether we're talking about the young man that's about to graduate high school and where they see themselves with regards to the academics, where they're going to go to school, where they see themselves with regards to the game of baseball and how they see that playing out at the next one, where they're going to be able to play at the collegiate level. Do they see themselves potentially as a professional athlete? And then based on what you see from a reality standpoint, once you understand that, there's a couple things that you need to do. Number one, you got to build that roadmap. You actually have to sit down and list everything out that it'll take you to go from where you currently are, based on that reality, to where you need to be. And when you build all the different benchmarks in there, it allows you to be able to focus on what comes first in order to prepare you for the next phase, for the next goal, for the next achievement, what it takes in order for you to truly meet your end state long-term goal-wise. How you see yourself in 5 years. In 5 years, if you see yourself as having graduated from college and owning a business or starting a career, all the things that it takes to build on that, whether it be to go to school, to get the certification, to come up with and start a business plan for your business, you know, just any type of benchmark that you would need to lay out and plan for. You know, you just don't decide today that I want to go be a neurosurgeon. If you decided today that you wanted to be a neurosurgeon, then you need to really start preparing way in advance. The type of classes that you're taking in high school and in college, the type of degree you get, the where you go to college, all the different variables and aspects that go into becoming a neurosurgeon, you need to think about that way in advance. You need to know what it takes to be competitive from a score standpoint, not just ASVAB, not just SAT or ACT. What does it take in the different type GPA, different metrics for the particular school that you're looking for? How many volunteer hours might it take for you to be competitive when you're trying to register and be accepted by a particular institution? That's the kind of thing that you really need to build on that roadmap. And then the second part of that is in executing that. Then actually following through and following that roadmap for success so that you actually achieve the goals that you're setting before yourself. Number 9 in behaviors is to clarify your expectations. Almost all conflict is a result of violated expectations. So when I say that, it's quite often, when I ask people, do you feel like this season was a success? Depending on what you set out to achieve in that season can determine whether or not you were successful. I tell parents all the time, don't necessarily equate how many trophies, how many championships we win to whether or not we were successful or you were successful or your child was successful for the season, for the tournament, or for a particular game. And the reason I say that is in Team Elite South, we truly believe player development is the key to success. Because if we develop you as players, whether you're 12, 15, or about to enter college, or maybe even the professional ranks, if we're developing you as a player, regardless of the wins and losses, it's that level of preparation that's really going to determine whether or not you're successful or not. It's not necessarily, okay, we happen to win. Now, do you get seen? Quite often that helps you get seen because the longer you play in a tournament, obviously the amount of scouts and recruiters that are around in these big tournaments, the regionals, the perfect games, the triple crowns, playing in some of the larger tournaments, obviously that helps from that standpoint to be seen. But in all honesty, when people want to know about you, they start asking about the numbers. They want to know, with regards to the information about you, where do you stack up? And it's really going to be those numbers that determine that. The 10th behavior, practice accountability. I would tell you right now that your ability to hold yourself and be accountable to yourself is huge. People that can truly hold themselves accountable to do their roadmap to success are about 95% more successful than those that aren't. If it takes an external person to hold you accountable, the truth of the matter is, it's only a matter of time before there's not somebody there pushing you. So self-accountability is huge. And then number two, you should try to hold others accountable. As I mentioned before, whenever you get to a point on a team when players hold each other more accountable than the coach, that's phenomenal. Because that's a team that's going to truly experience success at a higher level. But just know this, there's always going to be times when there's not somebody there. There's always going to be times when somebody's not going to see you. There's always going to be those times that the only person that's going to hold you accountable is going to be you. So that's the reason why I said first, it's holding yourself accountable. Behavior number 13, listen first. When it comes to trust, when other people that you know that truly have your best interests at heart, when you ask for that kind of feedback, when you ask for them to give you input about what they see when they look at you, not just inside the lines of baseball, but outside in life, at home, at school, at church, in the community, take that information and take it for just what it is. It's someone that really has your best interests at heart, giving you a picture of where you are today. Doesn't mean that that's where you need to be tomorrow. For instance, that's why we're talking about 13 behaviors. And for something that you have behaved your way into, you can't talk your way out of it, like I said in the beginning, but you can change that behavior to get out of it. So listen first. The 12th behavior is keep commitments. Just remember this, when you commit to something, you build hope. But when you deliver, you build trust. So the minute that you tell somebody you're going to be somewhere, the minute you tell somebody you can count on me, you just built that hope between you and that other person. And that truly is going to enable you to be able to come through and to build some trust. But it takes you coming through to build the trust. The connection between the hope and the trust is not just the words, but it's the deeds and actions that come after that. That's how you actually end up building that kind of trust. The 13th behavior is extend trust. You must trust others. I will tell you this. Some people truly believe that they can't trust anybody. But I will tell you this. Sometimes you've got to first lend somebody some trust, even if it's an opportunity to make yourself vulnerable in a small area. You've got to give somebody a little trust and trust somebody else until they've proven that you can't. And you must trust others to prevent you from micromanaging everything that they do. If you get to the point that you can't trust anybody, then basically what happens is you'll get to the point that you won't allow them to do anything, say anything, be a part of anything unless you have personally endorsed exactly what they're about to say. You have told them exactly what they need to do. And I will tell you right now that that's a bad place to be. That is never going to posture you and the organization for success. So those are the 13 behaviors with regards to building trust. That puts us right at about 24 minutes at this point. I want to go ahead and give you some instruction. The first thing I want to do is tell you about next week. Next week we're going to be on the ropes course. We're going to be in Milledgeville. The time for that, we're going to start at 10 o'clock in Milledgeville. It's going to go from 10 to 1 o'clock. Just know this. Anybody that's in Leadership University, if there's a conflict with Team Elite South as far as an evaluation, a tryout or something like that, I know right now that Coach Hayes wants you to go to the Team Elite or the Leadership University. So we only have 2 more iterations. We have this coming Saturday, December the 10th in Milledgeville, and then we'll all graduate on December the 17th at the Team Elite South Christmas party. But I do know the priority is for Leadership University. So if you're wondering if there's an evaluation or there's a particular workout, are you allowed to miss that? I can tell you right now, everybody in Leadership University is expected to be at Leadership University. So just know that Milledgeville, which is about 40 minutes west of Macon, I will tell you that we're going to take the van from Albany. If anybody needs a ride and wants to show up, just know that it'll take us about 3 hours to get from Team Elite South, from Synergy to Milledgeville to where we're going. So we'll be leaving there at about 7 o'clock. The intent is to leave Synergy at 7 o'clock and drive up to Milledgeville and arrive for the Leadership University Building Trust live session next week. I can tell you that we're going to be there from 10 to 1, and then when we leave from there, we'll go by and get something to eat, drive through, whatever, get something as we return home. The cost for everybody for next week is going to be $30. And once again, that's absolutely how much it costs to go through that. We don't make any money on that. Synergy, Team Elite South, Leadership University don't make a dime. That's what they're charging us. I assure you, you're going to see when we get there that it's a quality operation, that's a pretty good discount that they're giving us based on the fact that we're coming as a group. But that's basically $10 an hour we're paying to use their facility for all the different things. And I would just tell you this: if it's something that you haven't done in the past, probably a neat opportunity for you to be able to come and do something, some adventure training maybe that you haven't done before. So I would highly encourage it. If you have somebody, a parent, a sibling that would like to be involved, that's still just like last week when we did the paintball. We can do that, but I'm going to need to know the numbers. So I'm going to need you to text me and say, Coach Lassiter, my father wants to come, my brother wants to come. Oh, by the way, that means we have X number of people. And the reason I say that is because with the high ropes course, they have to have guides and safeties and things there in place to be able to help us as we're going through their course, to be able to teach us and be there to assist us in the process. So have to know how many in advance so we can get the right amount of personnel there to support our activities. So just know that I will send out a text with a little bit more information this week. But once again, I will send out, in regards to that information, I'll text you the address in case you want to drive straight there and meet us there, you can. Or if you want to, like I said, we're going to leave from Synergy at 7 o'clock on Saturday, December the 10th, and arrive there just a little bit before 10 o'clock. So based on that, that's all I've got for this week. Here's what I would ask that you guys do once you receive this video. Once you receive it, send me a text and let me know. The question that I have for you to answer is, what time do I expect you to be in Milledgeville Saturday the 10th for our high ropes training? What time do I expect you to be there in Milledgeville? The answer to that is no later than 9:55. 9:55 so that we can start at 10 o'clock. I appreciate everything so far. Enjoying the Leadership University with you young men. Talk to you later. Bye.